Well, Penn State fans, I'm Max Ralph. Johnny McGonigal, Bob Flounders finishing up his post-game work, so you're stuck with us here today. But a 30-24 win for Oregon in the whiteout. Johnny, the atmosphere certainly delivered, but for most of the night, the Penn State offense did not. And that is just kind of the whole story once again.
It's the whole story, Max. Before the game, during player introductions, we noted in the press box, Drew Allar, Nick Singleton, Katron, all these guys got extremely loud cheers from the fans. This crowd was amped. They were eager, and they were hopeful that this Penn State offense would deliver on the biggest stage against number 6 Oregon, top 6 matchup, a litmus test, a possible signature win for this program, for this coach, for this quarterback. And they fell flat. They fell completely flat through 3 quarters, 109 total yards. They turned it on. It was a torrid comeback, absolute feverish comeback attempt. 142 yards on the final 2 drives of regulation to knot it up and send it to overtime in the first place. They deserve credit for that. But where was that ingenuity in the first place? Where was that urgency in the first 3 quarters? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 drives in a vacuum were some of the best Penn State drives of the past few years.
Yeah.
I mean, the drive to tie the game left only 30 seconds on the clock. It was 62 yards in 15 plays. It was beautiful. And Andy Kotelnicki's touchdown call was probably the best play design of his entire life.
And the drive before that, the throw from Drew Allar to Devontae Ross was on the money over top of the Oregon defensive backs. Like, they could have built on that if they had that earlier. If they had that urgency in the first quarter, if they had that spark in the first quarter, they just did not have that at all.
We're just shaking our heads in the press box saying, why aren't these rhythm throws there for Drew early in the game? Yeah. I think I noted to you, everything felt a little gimmicky in the first half when running the ball instead of just lining up and trying to out-physical the opponent. And it just, none of it worked. And then, of course, you get down to overtime after that comeback, which, credit where it's due, very impressive. But you get down into double overtime, and once again, Drew has the back-breaking interception.
Yeah, it was just the offensive performance through 3 quarters and then culminates in a mistake that, again, we've seen this from Drew Allar now at this point.
Yeah.
The Notre Dame interception at the end of last season in the CFP semifinal down at the Orange Bowl. It's a play that hung over him, even maybe not personally, but certainly nationally, certainly around this fan base. It's something that stuck around, that stench the entire offseason. And we heard all offseason about how Drew and this offense overall, they were making improvements. They were building to try to get that off their back, really, and shake that play, really, in that moment and that loss. And we saw it happen again. We saw it unfold again, and it's stunning. I mean, and this entire crowd was stunned by the outcome, and just how it went down, really. And it's something he's got to learn from. I talked to him in there, in the media scrum after the game, and he was just like, look, I tried to put it over his head. Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon, who was covering Luke Reynolds, or in coverage, among others, on Luke Reynolds, that was his target. He was trying to put it over his head and just failed to do so. It didn't look like he saw him, honestly, but he said he did. So it's one that he's going to have to learn from, because unlike last year against Notre Dame, where he had to sit with that all offseason, they've got an entire season really left to play. This is their Big Ten opener. Yeah. They've still got Ohio State. They've still got a potential CFP run ahead of them. Who knows?
Yeah, and a resume booster in Indiana.
Yes.
The goals are still on the table, but in order to get there, it's gonna take a turnaround from this offense. The scene, of course, got a little bit ugly at times. Penn State goes down 17-3, and you've got Fire Franklin chants.
Plenty of boos, but earned boos for the offense,
absolutely.
Honestly. Justifiable.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's people yelling Big Game James at Franklin as he walks through the tunnel. It got ugly, and deservingly so to some extent. And James, he took accountability for it. I felt the tenor was a little bit different than last year after Ohio State, where he seemed very real with his emotion there. And I don't know if you feel the same way, Johnny, but it almost felt kind of like 2-3 years ago when he lost some of these big games where it was formulaic. And I don't know, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough situation.
Yeah, right? It is. And honestly, it's really tough because we just talked about the offense and how they really struggled, especially when the defense is doing what it was doing for most of the game, obviously falling in overtime, right, giving up those touchdowns. But at that point, I mean, they had to be gassed. They had to be just. It was an energy sapping, but really respectable performance by Penn State's defense to be only down 17-3 in the fourth quarter and allow, for a comeback in the very first place. Denied Dennis Sutton getting held all game. I'm sure Penn State fans were yelling at their TVs on that.
Yes.
But really just, a missed opportunity. Not necessarily missed opportunity, but a knee that was barely down on the grass that flipped a potential turnover in Penn State's favor. Some things went against Penn State's defense tonight, but ultimately the thing that went against them the most was Penn State's offense.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you had 3 and outs, you had punts, they could not keep those guys off the field. And it was just really, really disheartening to see that from Andy Kotelnicki's offense. Andy Kotelnicki, who was brought back to run this offense and is heralded as one of the best offensive coordinators in the country. And I just thought that creativity was really lacking tonight.
I thought so too. I don't want to finish this up without mentioning Amari Campbell. The guy made 15 tackles tonight. 11 of them came in the first half. And, I mean, a few of them were like drive-stopping plays on third downs. He has been an exceptional find to wear the green dot on defense from a transfer. But the refrain comes over and over again. It boils down to this offense. There's a season ahead of them still. I mean, they're 3-1.
Fans have to be sick of hearing about that, though.
Yeah.
They have to. When James, and I get it completely. But when James Franklin, some of the players, when they profess like, oh yeah, hey, we still have the whole season ahead of us. It's fine.
Yeah.
But that feeling has to be sickening.
Yeah.
To have this happen over and over and over again.
Yeah. I think this was the biggest billing for the whiteout ever.
Yep.
The atmosphere delivered, and Penn State didn't. They're 3-1, and they're on to UCLA next week.